There is something most women never realize. When a man feels a desire for you so deep that it shakes him, he doesn't always move closer. Sometimes he pulls away. He becomes distant, guarded, even strangely quiet, and you start asking yourself, is he losing interest? Has he stopped feeling anything? But according to Carl Jung's psychology, this behavior has nothing to do with disinterest. It is a sign of intensity, the kind that unsettles his sense of control. Jung taught that real desire, the type that rises from the hidden layers of the unconscious, never moves in straight lines. It resists logic, ignores rules, and refuses to behave predictably. When a man feels you in his soul, when the thought of you vibrates through him, his conscious mind tries to push back. It is an instinctive defense, a way to protect himself from the vulnerability he doesn't want you to see. You become a mirror reflecting everything he has spent years avoiding: emotions, fears, longings, truths. That is why one of the strongest signs of deep desire isn't pursuit but withdrawal, not chasing but restraint, not bold action but quiet silence. Suppressed desire speaks differently. It reveals itself in contradictions, small hesitations, and moments where he stands between what he wants and what he thinks he must control. The truth is simple. A man only resists when what he feels is far bigger than he can manage. He doesn't fight something small, he fights something powerful enough to change him, shake him, and tear down his emotional defenses. Without realizing it, you awaken emotions he can't easily contain. That is why Jung spoke of the conflict between the shadow and the persona. The shadow is his raw, instinctive longing. The persona is the mask he shows the world, insisting he must stay composed and in control. So, when he pulls back, avoids your eyes, or seems unsure of himself, it isn't because he feels nothing. It is because he feels too much. In this video, I'll reveal the clearest signs from Jungian psychology that a man isn't running from you, he's running from the depth of his own feelings. Signs that show he desires you deeply, quietly, intensely, more than he can admit even to himself. The first sign is suppressed desire. Jung believed that whatever is repressed never disappears. It only shifts shape. When a man feels a desire so strong he can't handle it openly, his behavior starts exposing the pressure building inside him. His longing doesn't show through words but through silence. Quick glances, tense reactions, and the strange mix of closeness and distance. A man who feels deeply often hides it the most. He doesn't want you noticing how his breathing changes the moment you walk into a room, or how his eyes search for you and dart away as if he's been caught wanting something forbidden. That quick, almost guilty visual escape isn't a sign of rejection, it's a sign of emotional exposure. Jung explained that intense feelings are often suppressed to avoid feeling naked or out of control. That's exactly what happens here. He cannot look at you calmly because his unconscious reveals what he tries to hide: the spark in his gaze, the softness in his tone, the impulse to move closer that he forces himself to suppress. This desire also shows through small details. He gets quieter when you're near. He looks serious, even tense. His voice changes. He may suddenly act strange, clumsy, or distracted. That is the unconscious stirring. The energy Jung described rising to the surface while he desperately tries to keep it contained. If he allowed it to spill out, his whole mask would fall apart. And here lies the truth. Suppressed desire is never a lack of interest, it is proof that his interest is overwhelming. He isn't pulling back because he doesn't care. He's pulling back because he cares more than he can handle. The second sign is his inner struggle with attraction. Some men desire you, and some desire you so deeply it creates an internal battle. When a man experiences the kind of intense, archetypal attraction Jung described, his behavior becomes inconsistent not because he is confused about what he wants, but because he knows exactly what he wants and it terrifies him. This struggle is the tension between the persona he shows the world and the unconscious pull drawing him toward you. He wants to approach you, yet he hesitates. He wants to speak, yet stays silent. He wants to look at you, yet turns away at the last second. His energy shifts from warm to distant because he is trying to manage a storm inside himself. This isn't manipulation. It isn't a game. It is fear, vulnerability, and longing colliding at once. You'll notice it most after moments of closeness, after a deep conversation, shared laughter, or a quiet connection. That's when he pulls back the hardest, acting like nothing happened even though he felt everything. His contradictions become louder. He says he doesn't want complications, yet he keeps coming back. He claims he isn't ready, yet he pays attention in ways that reveal he cares. He insists he needs distance, yet he reappears when you least expect it. Jung explained that suppressed desire moves in waves, not straight lines. And that's exactly what he's showing you. Not disinterest, but a desire so strong it disrupts his balance. When a man feels something so intense that it shakes the edges of his self-control, his behavior often turns into a cycle of approach, withdrawal, and approach again, an unconscious attempt to regulate feelings he cannot manage. One of the clearest signs of this inner struggle is how hard he tries to stay composed around you. Even though his body refuses to obey, he appears calm on the surface, but beneath that calm is tension, alertness, and a hyper-awareness of everything you say or do. You can feel that he is watching himself too closely, measuring every word as if one slip might expose him. And the moment he senses that these emotions might overwhelm him, he activates subtle defenses. He distances himself, makes jokes, changes the subject, or behaves in ways that seem confusing or contradictory. But underneath all this sits the same truth: his attraction to you is so strong that resisting it is the only way he knows to avoid feeling vulnerable. A man never fights feelings that mean nothing. He fights the ones that reach deeply enough to challenge him. The second sign is the emotional struggle that spills into his body, because the body never lies. Jung said that suppressed desire doesn't disappear, it simply moves inward, expressing itself through gestures, tension, and energy that passes between two people even when no words are spoken. When a man desires you deeply and tries to hide it, his body reacts long before his mind can control it. Around you, he becomes physically tense or unusually restless, unable to stay still, fidgeting with his clothes or shifting in his seat. This restlessness isn't discomfort with you, it's discomfort within himself. The tension between wanting to come closer and trying not to reveal too much. Watch his breathing. A man who hides desire often breathes either too shallowly, afraid his chest might give him away, or too deeply, as if trying to settle the storm inside him. Then there are the quick, stolen glances, brief, uncontrolled, and almost invisible. He looks at you when he assumes you won't notice, and the moment your eyes meet, he turns away quickly, as if the eye contact is to intimate, to exposing. Jung called these slips the escapes of the unconscious, small cracks in the mask that reveal what he's truly feeling. You'll also notice how his body responds to your presence when you approach. He tenses when you step away. He relaxes, though never fully, because the tension comes from emotion, not proximity. He mirrors your gestures, adopts your tone, even repeats your phrases, classic signs of unconscious attraction. Perhaps the strongest sign is his nervousness. He behaves differently with you than with anyone else, more alert, more attentive, more reactive, as if his body is responding to something powerful he hasn't fully accepted. The third sign is the unconscious approach, because no matter how hard he fights his feelings, the unconscious always moves toward what it desires. A man who desires you deeply may try to keep his distance intentionally, but in the small details he can't control, he moves closer without realizing it. You notice it when he appears in your environment more often than before, when he shows up in the same places or starts doing things that bring him closer to you. These aren't coincidences, they're emotional gravitations. He finds excuses to talk to you, tiny conversations that aren't truly needed but allow him to stay connected. I just wanted to ask something quickly, or I saw this and thought of you. Aren't practical interactions, they're emotional bridges. He asks questions he doesn't need answers to about your day, your feelings, your plans, not out of politeness, but because he wants access to your inner world. Even when he tries to stay neutral, his body language betrays him. He leans in, listens closely, reacts emotionally to your words. Jung described deep attraction as a psychological magnet, invisible but powerful. And the clearest sign of all is that he always returns, even after distancing himself or claiming he needs space. He comes back in small, quiet ways. This return is a silent confession. His desire is stronger than his resistance. He notices when your mood shifts, when something about you changes, when you seem quieter or more distant. His sensitivity is an involuntary closeness, a pull he cannot shut off. And here lies the truth few women understand. A man only fights against what deeply affects him. He only returns to where he feels drawn. His resistance doesn't mean he feels nothing, it means he feels far more than he can handle. And what looks like distance on the surface is, in truth, the purest confirmation of his desire. Because the fifth and most powerful sign is his fear of surrendering completely to what he feels. This fear is not directed at you, but at the emotional force awakened through you, a force deep enough to shake the carefully constructed layers of his identity. Jung believed that when a man encounters an emotion strong enough to reach the hidden core of his psyche, an unconscious defense mechanism rises instantly, rooted in his fear of losing control. A man who desires you so profoundly that he tries to suppress it isn't protecting himself from you. He's protecting himself from the magnitude of his own longing. It isn't insecurity, disinterest, or emotional immaturity, it is the opposite. He resists because he is too certain of what he feels, and that certainty terrifies him. This kind of desire leaves him vulnerable, unguarded, emotionally exposed in ways he cannot conceal. It places him in unfamiliar territory where you hold the power to reach the parts of him he has spent years shielding. That's why he hides behind statements like, "I'm not looking for anything serious," "I don't want complications," or "I'm not ready." Yet his behavior contradicts. Every word he returns, he seeks you out, he cares more than he'll admit. His excuses protect him, but his actions reveal the truth he tries so hard to deny. You'll notice this fear most after emotionally charged moments. Whenever you share a deep conversation, a moment of closeness, a quiet exchange that touches something intimate, he often retreats suddenly. Not because the moment meant nothing to him, but because it meant too much. Jung explained that when an emotion reaches the unconscious, it awakens the archetype of the lover, a powerful force, capable of shaking the entire conscious personality. This is the upheaval he tries to avoid, the intensity that both draws him in and sends him running. And that's why he becomes contradictory, warm one day, cold the next, expressive one moment, distant the following, open with his feelings only to shut down immediately after. This rhythm isn't a game or manipulation, it is the voice of fear speaking through him, fear of surrendering to something that could change him forever. Another deep layer of this fear shows itself as perfectionism. Men who feel this intensely often want to appear flawless, composed, fully in control. They overthink, overanalyze, hesitate, not because they don't want to move toward you, but because they're terrified of getting it wrong, terrified of failing you, failing themselves, or failing the image they've built. Sometimes this fear appears as resistance to feminine emotional intensity. Jung spoke of the anima, the feminine part of a man's psyche, which awakens only when a woman touches him at his emotional core. When you activate this inner feminine, he feels emotionally naked, stripped of the armor he normally uses to navigate the world. This awakening draws him toward you even as it overwhelms him, creating a confusing pull that he can't rationalize or control. And this is where the truth becomes undeniable. A man who feels nothing has no fear. Fear itself becomes proof of his desire. His resistance becomes proof of the depth he's trying to hide. His emotional struggle becomes the evidence that you've already reached a place within him he doesn't allow anyone else to touch. This fear is not a weakness, but a consequence of profound emotion that shakes him, transforms him, and pulls him beyond the safety of his boundaries. And the heart of this transformation is you. When a man appears to fight his feelings, he is not running from you, he is running from the version of himself he becomes when he feels deeply. Jung said the strongest bonds are not born out of calm and clarity, but from the collision between what we try to control and what our soul has already chosen. A man can control his silence, his excuses, his distance, but he cannot control the shift in his energy when you enter the room. He cannot control how his heartbeat changes. how his thoughts rearrange themselves, how his unconscious pulls him toward you even when he tries to step away. That's why he looks at you when he thinks it's safe. That's why he withdraws and then returns. That's why his behavior is full of contradictions. If he felt nothing, there would be no tension, no push and pull, no inner war. But when he feels too much, everything inside him begins to conflict: intensity against fear, longing against control, desire against self-protection. He's not trying to escape you. He's trying to protect himself from the overwhelming truth of what you awaken in him. You have become the mirror that reflects his hidden emotions, his passion, his vulnerability, his longing, his fear. That is why his resistance is not rejection, but recognition. His soul already knows what his mind is still resisting. So the next time he seems distant, confused, hesitant, or overwhelmed, remember this: he is not slipping away. You have simply touched him too deeply. And a man who tries to resist you is a man who has already fallen.